So that way you guys can watch it later, or if somebody misses it, you guys will have the link. I will email this out tonight. It also will be posted in the membership site. So welcome. I'm just seeing a couple more people come in. Yeah. So if you guys would let me know where you're watching from, if you want to leave it in the chat right now. I'm so happy that you guys could join me live. A lot of people, sometimes people can't make it, so they watch the recording, but it's really nice when you're here because you can ask me as many questions as you guys want. And it can be about these recipes or any other recipes you guys want. Southern California, I'm sure it's much warmer than it is here in Pittsburgh right now. So yeah, welcome. Before I always start these classes, I always like to give a big thank you for being a member. It is hugely helpful for me, and I just have so much fun creating recipes for the membership and all of the things. So if you guys haven't checked it out, you guys have September, October, and November up, and then on December 5th coming up, I blink and these months kind of fly by. There's going to be a whole new set on December 5th. I just saw in the chat someone asked a question. Brenda, there is not a video on the spiral tart. It wasn't part of the two. I always cook 2 recipes from the bundle, but maybe in the future there could be. That one is a little bit more involved of a recipe. Okay, so I'm just trying to get everything set up and we will begin. So welcome. I'm so glad so many of you guys can make it today. Okay. Oh, where did my chat go? There it is. All right. So I'm watching the chat. If any reason, you get kicked out, I will be here to make sure you guys get back in. Just setting the chat up now. You guys can be on camera or off camera. It's up to you. I'm the only one that will be on camera for the recording now, if that's of a concern to you. And if you see me come over here, it's just to let people in. I didn't manually set it up. Virginia, Louisiana, Florida, Buffalo, welcome, Seattle, Delaware, all over the place. Well, I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It is starting to get cold here, and I'm expecting snow probably pretty soon. We already had a little bit of a flurry recently. And then if you guys didn't hear, I scheduled my dog groomer only took, she's been so busy and we really needed our boy dog groomed. The girl dog got groomed earlier this week. So I literally just got home from dropping them off. Question on the stroganoff ingredients. Where do you buy dried mushrooms? So I find dried mushrooms at our co-op. We have a local co-op here in Pittsburgh, and they actually have, I just saw them. They actually have like little packets of different dried mushrooms that you can buy. I think Whole Foods also carries it, but your regular grocery store might. You just have to check. If you guys can't find dried mushrooms, you can dry them yourself. So if you like wash them, pat them dry, and you can slice them. And my grandma actually did this for our sour soup that we had growing up on Christmas Eve. She actually starts months and months in advance because it calls for like an enormous amount of dried mushrooms, the original recipe. So she'll just buy mushrooms when they're on sale, wash them, and then she puts them on a tea towel and lets them kind of just dehydrate on their own. And so you can do a large batch of dried mushrooms if you'd like. And I do find you can use regular mushrooms that you sauteed, but the flavor is so much more strong when you use dried mushrooms, which is why I suggest that. When or how, if you let them dry out, they're just like this. So you could just store them in your pantry. They wouldn't have to be refrigerated. Costco carries them. I don't have a Costco membership, but I've been considering getting one. But you'll have to ask in the chat. Okay, so we're gonna get started because we have 2 recipes to make today. If you see me pop over up close, I'm just letting people in. There are 27 people in the room right now, but like I said, some people kind of stagger in a little bit late. You're welcome to type your question in the chat, or you can unmute yourself at any time. Like, you can interrupt me I will be checking in to see if you have questions. So I did cook the mushrooms ahead of time because that takes like an hour to cook for the lasagna. And I also made some homemade marinara sauce or tomato sauce. We have a recipe on our video on our channel for the way that I like to make it, but you could use, any oil-free pasta or any oil-free hummus that you want to use for this recipe. That's why I just put it kind of, some people like to make it themselves. There's a couple that you can buy in store. That's why I just left it plain. But if you want to make our tomato sauce marinara, it's on our channel. And you could make our hummus and make the mushrooms with the hummus like I suggest, but you could use another hummus recipe if you'd like. Okay. So we're going to do the stew first and then kind of pivot to the lasagna since those two. Did anyone have any questions about the recipes for November? Trying to remember what month I'm in. For November, you should have seen them in the membership. There's a nice one that you can print out that doesn't require any pictures, that if you are looking to not waste ink, that you might want to do. There is a beautiful PDF as well to download. Some people ask me about, they forgot a month. It's always emailed to you. So if you search the Drudy family membership from whatever date you signed up from, always on the 5th, you get an email with like everything in the membership. You kind of get like 5 or 6 emails from it. The recipes are always saved there. So if you are looking for a recipe and you've been signed up for that month, it's probably saved in your email as another way. Yes, tapioca flour and tapioca starch are the same. So you should be good. Okay, any other questions before I kind of go behind and start? Okay, all right, you can ask questions anytime. Just I do have the chat up, but feel free to get on the mic. So I have an induction top that we take camping, but I also use it for our recipe when I do YouTube, when I do cooking things, because the way our stove is set up, it's like it would be very complicated to have it. So anyway, I'm just gonna plug this in. That's why I'm using this, but you can be at your stove if you want to. You also can, just watch. You don't have to make the recipes right now, depending on where you are in the world. These are just, usually I kind of pick 2 that I think, you might want to make, or it might be nice to see. So that's why I have it here. So I have a big Dutch oven kind of pan. This pan I can put into my oven, so it's oven safe. So make sure whatever you do the stew in, it's 2 parts. So there's a part we're going to do on the stove, and then we're going to put this into the oven to cook. So make sure it's oven safe as well. And so I have the printable recipes right here for me. I actually got this Dutch oven pan from my mom many years ago from Aldi's. So I don't even know if they carry it. But you definitely can get, there are some more expensive ones I've seen on Amazon and stuff, but this is actually from Aldi's from a few years ago. Okay, so we're gonna add all of the stew ingredients, and then we're gonna make the dumplings. So it's pretty easy. So I try to make all the recipes really easy as well. You're having trouble hearing me. Is anyone else having trouble hearing me? Making sure that I usually don't have problems with audio.
No, I can hear you.
Okay. All right, so it's probably that person then. Okay. I would just check if you're on your phone, it might be like, if you have it set down, it might be where the speaker's at. That's the only thing I can think of. Okay. All right, so in here, I'm gonna add our 8 cups of vegetable broth. We also have a vegetable broth recipe if you wanna make it from scratch. Again, you can use any vegetable broth that you want that is compliant to what you're doing. I have mine here. Make sure I have like a little piece of something that I don't want in there. All right, so 8 cups goes in. You want to make sure you use a pretty big pot for this. It needs to be able to hold it all. I'm not even sure how big this guy is. It doesn't have it labeled, but enough that it can hold 8 cups for sure. And so I have a little bit of room as well, because we're going to add all the filling and then the dumplings on top. So I'm gonna chop, and this is what I like about these classes is it's very informal, but you know, you guys can ask questions and I'm kind of doing it all with you. So, you know, if you didn't have everything set up beforehand, it's okay. There's time to grab everything. If your blender, well, I use my blender, but we're gonna be washing our blender a whole bunch, so I have that all set up. Okay, just making sure I'm all plugged in. Okay, everyone looks good. One more person is coming in. You let them in. Okay. All right. Okay. So I have a red onion. You can use any onion that you want. I always pick red onions. I don't know. I heard one time that it was better to have the ones that are more vibrant in color when you pick food. So just like purple potatoes, I try to get that if I can find it. So I have a red onion, but you can use any around a medium size. You know, the more onion you put in it, the stronger the onion taste will be. So you can, it's personal preference for sure. And then I also have some carrots and parsnips. Another thing that you could use in this as a substitute is you could use turnips. Those are kind of like potatoes as well. So if you wanted to add that, you also could do this with sweet potatoes. You know, it doesn't have to be Yukon Gold, or, you know, I have these little potatoes that I'm gonna chop up today because I need to use them up. But, you know, I kind of, the way I cook and make recipes, it's what I have on hand. And also I like to change it up. So if I make this stew like a lot, the one way I'll change it up and make it slightly different the next. And that for me is kind of the spice of life. So around 1 cup, which I find is around like 3 carrots. So again, you don't have to measure out per se, it will work. But around three large carrots is kind of what I usually do. And the same with the parsnips. Let's chop off the ends and then we're going to chop it. Does anyone have any questions? This is kind of the class where you guys can jump on. And how's everyone's Thanksgiving plans going? Does everyone like know what they're making for Thanksgiving?
I haven't gotten there, Brittany, for Thanksgiving, but I just have a general question about aquafaba.
Sure.
Like, I have a big container of it already
Okay.
in my fridge, and I have frozen it in ice cubes too, like for cookie recipes and stuff like that. But I'm gonna make hummus right now, and I just opened the can, so I'll have even more aquafaba. Is there a search feature on your website where you can search an ingredient? Like, I'd like to know what takes like a 1/4 cup or 1/2 cup of aquafaba, so I could consider making that and using it up.
I don't think I have too many recipes that I have a couple that use it, but not a huge amount, I would say. Our website is kind of awful. I think the best way is to search on Google the Drudy family and then put in, like, if you're ever looking for a recipe of mine, just put it in Google and the video will pop up, or the link to the website. You could try it there.
Okay.
I'm working on redoing it. So when I bought the website, when I started this a couple years ago, you know, I didn't even know that it was gonna get this popular. So I have to spend some time, and hopefully the new one will be better. On my never-ending to-do list.
Well, I truly appreciate you. I know just from the Facebook group, and so many people just love you. So I thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can leave it on peel, Debbie. It's up to you. I try to make life easy. You can peel it if it bothers you. We made the mug cake, the mug cake today. Does that have aquafaba in it? I can't even remember. Sometimes I think I make so many recipes that I have to, like, people will ask me specifically like a recipe I made like a year ago, and I'm like, wait, I don't know it off the top of my head. I have to look it up. I have to look it up, or at least like remind myself. Yeah. So that one has aquafaba. If you Google I think it's lava cake. Is that what I called it? Try to keep it straight. my brain, like I'm always thinking of like stuff, and then, I do a lot of stuff for other places like Plant-Based Pittsburgh and a lot of like PBNSG, I do stuff. I have that on print, good. So I have to like always be like, wait, which ones did I put out already? Which ones are coming out? So, and then on top of it all, this year we decided to like move and build a house. So what you guys can't see is the part of my house that's like ripped apart and disheveled, and like I'm gonna try to do the kitchen like very last because I need it. But it's just been, yeah. Loved my last Plant-Based Pittsburgh. It is such a great group. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that we're now doing it virtually as well, because you should see the spreads that they make. And our classes were getting pretty decent sizes before COVID. We would have like 40 people come to a Saturday class, but we could feed a small village with how much food. And then like everyone is so creative and so excited that the energy is just amazing. So I have my parsnips, my carrots in here. I'm gonna add in some onion that I'm gonna chop. I'm gonna turn it on because this takes a little bit longer, so it'll make a little noise, but I want to start cooking it. Plant Pure Pod polyps, right? Yeah, and that's what we are. So our Plant-Based Pittsburgh is actually a pod, a Plant Pure pod that Sally Lipsky is the person who started it, and she's been plant-based, I think, for like 14 years now. And she started the group, and literally whenever I became plant-based, I found out that the group was when I was looking at like a community newsletter. It was like a local thing that just happened to have adult classes, and I was looking at like what adult classes there were, and there was a plant-based class, and I was so excited. I took my mom and met Sally for the first time, and like when we were chatting, she was looking for somebody to help make the website, and I had some experience with making websites before. Let me let someone in. And so we kind of got hooked up, and then, I had been plant-based for maybe a year or two at that time. And then I just like loved, that kind of got started. So that's kind of where I got started with the channel too, as I was doing a lot of stuff for Plant-Based Pittsburgh. And I was like putting on like cooking demonstrations. And I think somebody mentioned that I should start a channel. And I never thought I would like start a channel ever. And like with their encouragement, it kind of took off. So Plant-Based Pittsburgh is amazing. The website is so great. If you haven't checked it out, it has like 1 million recipes, and it's just like so much knowledge on there. So Sally does a great job keeping track of everything. Yeah, you never peel. Yeah, I feel like, I only I only peel it if I'm doing like carrot hot dogs. Sometimes I'll peel it there. Sorry, the onion is gonna make me cry. All right, so in here is the onions, the parsnips, and the carrots, and the vegetable broth. Really easy. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna add in our herbs de Provence, and you've heard me talk about that before. You can change up the seasoning though. If you like it to be more savory, that's totally fine. I just kind of call this Thanksgiving in a jar, and so I get kind of fixated on this spice, especially around this time of year, because I think it just goes so well together. So if you have it, I definitely like a tablespoon, but you could sub this out with another seasoning of your choice, just like all of our recipes. I always try to tell you guys that you are cooking for your family, and so your palate is much different than my palate. This is kind of a good place to start, and then if you like it different, you definitely can go there. So we'll talk about that when we get to the lasagna roll-ups too, but really easy. All right, and then I'd like to add a little bit of miso paste because my vegetable broth is salt-free. And I do feel like it enhances the flavor a little bit. We use miso in our recipes. It's very little. I try for all of our recipes to put it makes a pretty good size serving. This serves 6 to 8 people. So, a little tiny bit of miso. And I am definitely somebody who had blood pressure issues, and I still monitor my blood pressure. And, with having it in recipes, not eating it by the tablespoons, it has not affected my blood pressure or anything for me. So if you don't want to use white miso, you can always leave it out. It doesn't make or break the recipe. But I do feel that if you are not SOS free, or if you are finding that you want to your dish comes out and you're tasting it, it tastes kind of bland, it helps enhance the flavor. So that's why I use it. And then I have some garlic and onion powder as well. And I know it's a little bit of a lot of garlic, or a lot of onion, but I do like a little bit of both. So garlic powder. And I have onion powder somewhere. Hold on 1 second. My husband comes in and uses the spices, and then we always are putting them back at a different spots. I'm like, need to find where it's at. So some onion powder. And we're gonna let that kind of cook together. I'm gonna get the white miso. Now, I suggest a white miso on Amazon. However, if you've watched my Amazon shop page, I took it off because I was ordering it online, but it was coming damaged each time I ordered it. So until I get it back to the point where it's good, I'm not going to recommend you order that one off of the Amazon, because for me, the last two times I've ordered it has come bad. But I just found a white miso from my grocery store, and it's been fine. I like the other one more, but it works, So let me grab a spoon for that. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, the miso, I don't know. I've ordered it for years off of Amazon. It's been fun. And then the pandemic happened and the prices went crazy high. And, I was like, okay, I don't use a lot of it. It takes me a very long time to get through it, even with recipe creating and doing everything. But, I don't want, and then they won't refund, I ordered it twice and they wouldn't give me a refund, which is kind of awful. So. It does thicken up. If you want it to be even thicker, you could add a little bit of dried mushrooms. That kind of helps thicken things up. You could add some cornstarch as well, but that's up to you. I find with the kind of the dumplings on top with it, it's kind of a nice variation that I don't want it to be super, super thick, but you definitely can. You can add a little bit of cornstarch or a little bit of dried mushrooms, and that will help. All right, and then I have 2 cans of white beans that you rinse. And I have some Great Northern beans I'm gonna add today. This is the bean that I've really found that I like. So you could add any bean though that you'd like. If you want to do lentils, if you want to do something else, that's totally fine. So I'm going to open these and just give them a quick rinse and then dump them in. I see some people are on the treadmill. That's great. I have a whole area in my new house that's going to be our workout area. And very much looking forward to having a space. Like I said, my house is completely kind of taken apart. All right, let me grab a strainer. All right. Anyone have any questions? Still doing okay. Luckily, with the miso, I have been able to find it at Whole Foods or Co-op, so it's been all right. Give it a quick rinse. I usually rinse it until the bubbles go away. And you can of course cook your beans from scratch. I do that sometimes, but lately with being so busy, it's been really convenient having a can. And the beans will help it thicken up a little bit too. And we have to also add in our potatoes. And like I said, you could use any potatoes. It can be a sweet potato. You could do half and half. You can use any potato that you'd like. I have some little potatoes that I'm going to use today. You kind of just switch it up. And so I like this dish, especially in the winter. It just like is so comforting. And it makes a lot, but it's pretty easy to kind of whip together. So I'm gonna grab a spoon. Give it a nice stir. It already starts to smell really, really nice. All right. And this, will be good for around 6 days in the refrigerator. And you also could freeze it. You could make it the day before you're gonna serve it. Awesome. All right. So any other questions? Someone else from Pennsylvania. Awesome. So I'm gonna add in some small potatoes that I have here. I'm gonna leave the skins on. You could peel them if you don't like the skins, but I'm all about that extra little bit of fiber where I have them. I just like to dice them up into little pieces. This is a beautiful purple potato. I always try to get these like little variety color packs, but I love when they have the purple ones in there. And we're looking for the vegetables to get kind of softened. We're gonna put this in the oven as well. So I'm using an induction top, like I said earlier, but this is an induction top that takes very long to heat up, especially when you have such a big item. So this one might take me a little bit longer than typically would, but we generally want your potatoes and everything to be fork tender before you put in the before we put it into the oven. So I try to get close to being done, and then I'll add the dumplings on top. Does anyone have any questions about the dumplings? Purple potato was a beet. Yeah, it's the bag that I got, it had a couple purple in there that are really pretty. I wish you could buy all purple where I live. I don't really notice like a huge difference in taste, so I'd rather have the benefits instead of, if I could eat a purple potato instead of a white potato. I'm all about, same with like buying the red onions, but I have a hard time kind of finding those here in Pittsburgh. So I feel when everyone says they have a hard time finding like Japanese sweet potatoes, sometimes we do here too as well. All right, gonna give it a couple more. And like I said, you could do Yukon Golds, you could do russets, you could do red potatoes. Sweet potatoes, it's up to you. If you do a sweet potato, those sometimes take longer to cook. So I suggest cutting them up into smaller pieces with anything that kind of quickens the cook time. So you guys can see it's quite large. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and make the dumpling. So the dumpling, we're going to combine the, let me grab it, the cashews and the plant milk. If you don't want to use cashews, you could use white beans. That would work as well. But I do find that adding a little bit of fat helps instead. I have 3 bags of mini purple potatoes. That's amazing. I wish I could find that. Yeah, and you could take some of this out and put it into a blender to thicken it and put it back in as well if you wanted to. That's a good suggestion. All right, so I'm gonna grab our plant milk. I'm gonna grab my blender. All right, check it on time. We're still doing good. So it's this recipe is really nice because you can kind of have dumplings pretty quick compared to traditional dumplings that take really long. some plant milk. Now I do suggest using, you can use any plant milk. I kind of don't like using oat milk for savory dishes. I've talked about it before, just because it has a lot of natural sugar. So oat milk is fantastic for like sweetening up oatmeal, sweetening up any dessert recipes. But anytime I do anything savory, I tend to leave it out. So, almond milk, cashew milk, soy milk are all going to be great substitutes in this place. All right, so I have my 2 cups of plant milk. I'm going to add half a cup of cashews. Like I said, if you don't want to use cashews, you could use white beans, but I do find that cashews having a little bit. Now, again, this is half a cup for 6 to 8 servings. So it's a really small amount compared to, a lot of the other stews or dumplings that you're gonna have in there. So just remember that you're not eating half a cup of cashews in one sitting. And half a cup is usually the amount that I try to stick with a lot of our recipes, so that it's not, a crazy amount of overt fats, but just a little bit. All right, I'm gonna blend this up. I'm gonna put you guys on mute while I blend this. This is also a great trick if you ever have to do coconut milk. You could do a little bit of cashews mixed in with a plant-based milk, and it kind of resembles coconut milk as well. And you could do coconut extract if you had a recipe like curry. Okay, give me 1 second to mute this. All right, so yeah, you want everything to be blended smooth. That's kind of the goal. Let me grab a glass bowl is behind you. Give me 1 second, guys. You could also put the miso in now if you wanted to. It does break up pretty easily though. You don't have to do that, but let me set this out of the way. You could just throw the miso in, and then that would kind of incorporate it as well. It's up to you. I think there's the plant milk that we've made. All right, I'm gonna rinse this. We're gonna need this for the next recipe. Now I'm gonna use whole wheat flour. I'm not gluten-free. I don't have a problem with gluten, but if you are, you could use a gluten-free flour as well. Oat flour is kind of a little bit more gummier, I find, for some things. So oat flour doesn't always work 1-to-1. So I would suggest, trying a different flour than oat flour for this. Oh yeah, you can use an immersion blender too to make it a little bit thicker. That's a great idea. Yeah, that's a good idea for, everyone's different kind of on there. I kind of like, since there's some dumplings in this that we're gonna make right now, I like to have a little bit of a thinner stew, but you can definitely, that's a great idea. All right, so 2 cups of this. I'm also gonna add in some seasonings. So at this time, I like the dumplings to have a little, flavor. So I have some herb de Provence that we put in there. We're also gonna put into this. 1 tablespoon. Again, you can kind of change it up if you want. But this is very much the time of year I find to use this. So this would be a great Christmas dinner as well. So if you guys, all of these recipes that I put as Thanksgiving mains, you could save them for Christmas or New Year's, and have it. So I'm gonna mix that in. I'm also gonna add in a tablespoon of baking powder, a little bit of white miso. Again, that's going to help with the flavor. Measuring teaspoon of white miso, so it's not a large amount. I'm gonna grab some baking powder. That's another thing when you're making recipes all the time. It's like, where did I last see that? And then we're gonna add in our flour. All right, everyone doing okay? What would you do if we read last comment? Okay, so I'm kind of doing that. So for Thanksgiving, I'm gonna go to my mom's side of the family where no one's whole food plant-based. And then I'm gonna go over to my in-laws where no one's whole food plant-based except for me and my husband. So what I do is I either make a little dish and bring it with me. And then, we just kind of eat off of that, which probably, it's not my ideal thing to do. But, it kind of works. Or what we'll do is we'll, just go and snack on what we can there. And then we have one ourselves. I'm sure it'll change as we grow our family. But we're actually traveling the day after Thanksgiving. So, I'm actually just gonna make Thanksgiving here for just me and my husband. And we'll go and just hang out with family because that's the reason we're going. We're not really going, for the food. And then when we come home, we'll have, our proper Thanksgiving meal. And then I'm gonna take the leftovers with us when we travel. So it's not a really good, I've done it a bunch of different ways. In the past, when we went to family events, I've talked to the person who's hosting and they've been able to separate, they've made 2 different mashed potatoes, one that I've kind of instructed her what to do and one for everyone else. But I always kind of feel put out because you're making kind of more work for the hostess. Once we have our new house, I'm planning on hosting a Thanksgiving where it'll be all of our stuff. And then, it'll be all whole food plant-based, but yeah, it's just, I've also brought a dish, a main dish to places. But the only problem with that, and it's not a problem, it's just that everyone wants to try it. So then I've been left with nothing to eat myself or very small portions. So that's kind of frustrating because it's you brought something and you want everyone to try it, but then you also want to not still be hungry if you've only had a small portion. So, I think figuring out with your family or asking them, maybe to put a couple things aside for you. Thanksgiving is a hard one. And I think the longer you're plant-based, the easier it gets. I'm gonna stir in 1 cup at a time. But I feel for you. It's kind of like any time I feel like you go to any event with family, right? Your mom has COVID and lives with you. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of the times too, people forget that it's more than just the food. I understand, if you're not hosting it, I try to think about that. And I think being plant-based really makes you think about it is that it's really just spending time with your family or friends that you want to. So I try to not, I'll make some stuff too. We'll have a really decent breakfast. This is another tip. I love to watch the Macy's Day Parade. So I will be in front of my TV watching the Macy's Day Parade, but we'll have some pretty satisfying breakfast and yes, and the dog show. So I'll usually sometimes what I like to do is make stuffing, and then we'll make tofu scramble. We'll have tofu scramble and stuffing, a savory tofu scramble, and that's really filling. So then when you get to your family, you're not super hungry and tempted to do whatever. And it, you know, and then you can take something to your family a little bit smaller, or take a dish. And then, you know, you can have something at home waiting for you as well. So there's all little tips and tricks for that. But sometimes most Thanksgivings or holidays, we make a pretty good hearty breakfast. You know, something that's going to be filling. And kind of a favorite. So there's 2 cups of flour I just put in. Gonna stir it until it should start to get nice and thick. The goal for this is after your vegetables are tender, we're just gonna dollop in the dumplings. They should kind of stay on top of it. And then we're gonna stick this in the oven, and we're gonna cook it for around 30 minutes until your dumplings are nice and brown. I will say that I like to do this on the lowest level of my oven. I do not do this in a Breville one. I'm using like such a large pan, it wouldn't fit in my Breville oven to begin with. And you know, I want to give some space. You don't want to burn your dumplings. So I like to put it on the lowest level. And this is just a really nice recipe. Again, it's very comforting. If you do want it to be thicker, you could thicken, take it out and take a little bit of this out, put it in your blender, pour it back in, or you can use an immersion blender and make it as thick as you want. I would do that before you add the dumplings though. So, you know, you don't want to be putting an immersion blender in and then like stir up what you just did. So I'll show you guys what this looks like. So it should kind of look like, you know, just like batter, but very thick. And then these are literally just going to be like dolloped on top around where you want to make dumplings. Okay. So I'm still waiting for this to kind of get tender. Like I said, I'm using this is not ideal. I would not use an induction top. I would use my gas stove because it takes forever to just heat up. So once these are tender, you can just take your spoon of your batter from your dumplings, plop them on top around, then move it to your oven, lowest rack, and let it cook until it's nice and brown. And we generally eat this like a lot of times when it's cold. Another thing too is that, you know, like I said, this can be a great idea for Christmas or even Christmas Eve. This can be a very easy meal. It doesn't take a long time to make. Someone gave me a good reply after, said, I'm hopefully plant-based now, when someone says, and she can't eat anything. Yeah. And I get that too. And some people look at me like which it's just like, you know, like I sometimes, I think, you know, the longer you do this, I really don't care what anyone else thinks. It's like what I want to do because I know how good I feel. I know what my blood test looks like. I've seen my blood pressure and nobody can convince me, like, you know, it's just, this is what works for me and I am choosing to do this. But, you know, it's crazy because I don't comment on what anyone else eats. Definitely when I started, I just wanted everyone to be healthy, especially in my family. So I talked a lot about like, you know, here's a book. We had Secret Santa one year and I Secret Santa somebody like the Forks Over Knives documentary, a plant-based cookbook. And then I think I made stuff like to go in it, like muffins. But like, I honestly don't do that anymore because if people want to know what I'm talking about, I have a channel. You know, they've seen what I look like before and after in real life. You know, I'm happy to talk to them, but I don't no longer like really like force it on to anyone, or it's not everything. I don't really even bring it up. I'm just there if people want help. We actually had a friend of mine, you know, a couple months ago told me that he actually had a heart attack and he's under the age of 33. And he was asking me, you know, like suggestions, and I was happy to give them to him. But, you know, and I told him like, he only lives like 10 minutes from us. And I'm like, you know, come to our Plant-Based Pittsburgh events, and I've invited him and stuff. And you know, I haven't seen him at anything yet, but the door's open and I'm happy to be there. But I'm, you know, just people have to kind of make the decision themselves and then, you know, move forward with it. So it's, you can't force anyone into this. It's very, I feel like especially around holidays, it's just hard. But for me, it's like, I don't comment on, you know, the fact that they're putting in like bacon. I found out that they put like bacon drippings into stuff at Thanksgiving that I never knew about, like before being plant-based. I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it back then either, but you know, I don't like comment on anything else anyone else eats. So, you know, it's just, I don't know. For some reason, people feel like they have a just cause to say stuff, unfortunately. Just reading through. Yeah, and I feel that, Janie. Yeah, I feel like just if you walk the walk, you know, people and like you look good and you feel good and you can talk about how well it's been and you're kind of the proof. You know, I have had people that have jumped on board, but yeah, just in the end, it's everyone has to be ready. Yeah, plant seeds. I agree. Okay. So this is, so I'm going to move this over to the side so we can get started on the next recipe because we're getting kind of close on time. Just because my induction top takes forever. So let me just move this over. But again, you would just drop them in. I'm going to cook it off camera probably after this class, just because it's going to take a while. Let me just move this. It's a really big pot. Just drop, once they're tender, you can drop your dough in, put in the oven, lowest rack for 30 minutes. All right, let's get on to that lasagna. So let me grab everything for this. All right, so I'm gonna cook up the noodles. All right, so for this recipe, you can do this as a lasagna. It doesn't have to be roll-ups. Now, if you're trying to lose weight, roll-ups can be nice because it kind of portions it out for you. You know, pasta is one of those things that is very easy to overeat. So that's why when we do our cookbooks, you know, you generally don't see pasta involved. I'm somebody who can overeat pasta pretty easily, but doing them in roll-ups, I feel like you're having like a noodle. It kind of like, all right, portions it out a little bit better. Let me see. Yeah, I'm just reading through. I wanted to make the roll-ups today and I realized I don't have pasta yet. And you know what? There are a couple ways to tweak it. So I'm going to talk about that. We probably with just, since we're only in here an hour, I'm going to give you more tips than, you know, I'll post the pictures tonight. On the, whenever I post this in the membership, in the comments, I'll post what each of these came out as so you guys can see photos, as well as I'll post them in the Facebook group. Since these are going to take a little bit of time to cook off camera and we won't be here. But you can do this with, and another thing is that you can do this with any pasta. It doesn't have to be roll-ups. It could be any pasta or even whole grain that you wanted. You know, you can mix in, we're going to make like a cheesy sauce with spinach, and then you could add mushrooms if you wanted to. You could serve that, you know, make the cheesy sauce, make up a big batch of brown rice or farro or any whole grain you like, and stir it in, and it kind of becomes a cheesy whole grain. And then you could add the mushrooms, you could just add the spinach, you know, it's what your family likes. You can, you know, leave out the marinara, or you could add a little bit of marinara. You could put this on pizza. You could put this with any shells. I saw someone ask about large pasta shells. You could do this with small pasta shells. You know, it could just be a white sauce and not the red sauce. You could do a combination of both. There are like a million ways to make this for you. So if I was doing the roll-ups, I would follow the directions on my packaging, cook the noodles, you know, almost so they're about finished. They're gonna bake for just a little bit, so if you pull them out a little al dente, that's even better, so they don't get dried out. But I have some chickpea. I found chickpea, you know, lasagna noodles that I'll just make. You also, again, you could just make this as lasagna and not roll-ups. I made the lasagna roll-ups. The chickpea noodles fell apart. Yeah, and if they fall apart, you could just serve it as a regular lasagna. But if you cook these more al dente, especially any like bean noodle, or if you have like a lentil noodle, that kind of works a little bit better. So if you're gonna try to do it, I would try that. Since we only have like 15, under 20 minutes, I'm just gonna have you guys, we're gonna cook the cheese sauce together, but just imagine that I have since a couple of these recipes take a little bit longer, it's a little bit hard to fit it in. Just imagine that I have the noodles ready, but let's do the cheese sauce. You can use any pasta sauce for this. We have a marinara. You can Google it on our YouTube channel. Another quick idea is you can just take diced tomatoes and blend them into your blender, or use strained tomatoes, add some Italian seasoning. You can even add a little bit of white miso, and boom, you have pasta sauce. Like, you don't even need to, you know, I know there's a couple places that you can buy oil-free pasta sauce, but it's really expensive. You can add nutritional yeast to it if you'd like, but that's so easy if you're looking for, you know, a red sauce. So I did make some earlier this morning. I'm gonna set that aside. Let me grab my pan for making this. All right, didn't wash it. Let me grab it in the other room. I always have to double check which pans work with this induction top, because not all of them do. That one does not. Let me grab a different one. I believe this one does. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna make the cheese sauce. So I did make the mushrooms. Now, I do not like mushrooms. If you've followed my channel or watched me talk, you'll talk about how I'm not a fan of mushrooms. I actually love them like this, and this is actually a recipe from the cookbook I just put out about mushroom jerky. But these are so good, and I don't know if it's like the flavor of it or what, but I love sneaking them in when I can. So you could eat these, you know, as a side, but I actually like putting them in the lasagna because it kind of gives a little bit of I think the balsamic in it and the creaminess of the hummus just add a different flavor profile to this. So the cheese sauce is very nice and creamy and thick and cheese-like, but then this gives it like a brightness of flavor. So if you don't like mushrooms, I still suggest trying it together. You could, again, assemble it just like a lasagna. My husband is not a fan of mushrooms, like even more so than I'm, and he is not a fan of it being put in. So usually when I make this for us, I do half and half and then give it. So the two flavors that I usually use, so it just depends on the time of year, but I have a black fig balsamic. That's really nice. And then I also have a cinnamon pear, but any dark flavored balsamic will work. So you can use, I've done it with, we have a red apple. We've done it with a dark cherry. It really kind of just gives a little bit of sweetness to the hummus and then a little tartness from that mustard that's in there. So it's kind of play around with it. It's a great salad dressing. So if you haven't tried it as a salad dressing as well, kind of our favorite. So, okay, let's move on to let me get to this before we run out of time. All right, so for the cheese sauce, we're gonna take 2 cups of plant milk. You can mix in, I use Dijon mustard, but you could use stone ground mustard. Probably I would not use yellow mustard, but Dijon, stone ground, that works. I've seen horseradish mustard, but that's a little bit more strong flavored. But yeah. All right, and then for this, you could sub the white beans for cashews if you want it to be, so there's, I always feel like there's different tiers of making food. There's like, if you're trying to lose weight, obviously you would use the white beans, that's better. If you're trying to feed your family on Thanksgiving and getting them to be plant-based and taking them a dish, it might be good to sub cashews, right? Or if you're trying to get your spouse on board or kids on board, or you're taking it to a neighbor's house, or anyone that I always say, like, so you can make a little note that you can do cashews, half a cup for this. It changes the flavor slightly and makes it a little bit richer. So it's up to you, but I did put white beans because I know a lot of people are trying to lose, or around the time of the year it's nice to cut. So I have my high-speed blender. Let me grab my, same thing on the milk, pretty much anything but oat milk. Oat milk is just like naturally too sweet, I find. Even if you make it yourself, it just becomes a lot sweeter. So let me grab that. All right, we're also gonna need some lemon juice. I think I'm almost out of lemon juice. You could use fresh lemon or lemon from a jar. We cook so much that I've just been starting to buy it from the jar now. Any other questions? So guys doing okay? All right, a little bit of lemon juice and a little bit of apple cider vinegar. And it does make a difference to have both. I've done it with all lemon juice and I've done it with all apple cider vinegar, but I find that they're very different. So it's very nice to do a little bit of one-to-one. I always tell people too is that start to make the recipe, kind of as I suggested, and then you can switch it up. So I think I'm gonna make the lasagna for a family member. So I'm gonna use the cashews, but you could use the half a cup of white beans. It's gonna help thicken it up a little bit. And then I did suggest using tapioca flour or starch. This is what's going to make it pull. If you use something else, it won't get stretchy and become like cheese-like. So just keep that in mind. So this is 1/4 cup. There's something magical about this. And if you use arrowroot or like cornstarch, this doesn't work. But flour and tapioca starch are exactly the same. So whatever your grocery store carries, mine says flour, but I bought it before it's starch. It's the same thing. I have some nutritional yeast. If you don't like nutritional yeast, you could leave it out. It's not gonna, the tapioca starch and the cashews or white beans and plant milk really are the bulk of the recipe. And then you guys can doctor it up. I like by 3 tablespoons. A little bit of garlic and onion. I've also done this with Italian seasoning. You could do that too. And if you like it a little bit spicier, you could put red pepper flakes. That's kind of nice. A little bit of white miso. We talked about why I use that, but this one is a tablespoon, so more than what you did with the last recipe. All right, leave out you don't want to put the spinach in unless you want it to be green. Around St. Patrick's Day, you can keep this recipe in mind and blitz in some spinach and it'll be a beautiful green sauce. I probably will make a video about that closer to St. Patrick's Day. But, if it's not St. Patrick's Day, you probably don't want a green sauce unless you're eating pesto. So I fold in at the end. All right, making sure I have everything. Looks good. All right, I'm going to mute you guys so you don't have to hear me blend. Okay, now people have said in the past with whenever I do a cheese sauce recipe, if I let it just go in the blender constantly, won't it thicken up? No. You have to heat it and it has to be whisked or it'll be a mess at the bottom of your container. If you like walk away from this, it will burn. So you have to be here. I'm just trying to find a whisk real quick. Grab a whisk. My whisk. Definitely need a whisk. So I'm gonna go over here. You're gonna stay over here. Don't walk away. It only takes like 3 minutes. We're gonna pour in the mixture. You want to blend it until all of your cashews are smooth or your white beans are blended, whatever you decide to use. You can turn it on medium-high heat. And you want to, you don't have to whisk it right away, but if you watch it, you'll see it bubble, and then that's when you want to start whisking it. And then as soon as you start feeling it get heavy, that's when you want to turn it off and actually remove it from the heat. So this recipe, you can put this as a cheese for anything that you'd want, pasta, pizza. You could put it on a whole grain. It really can be a lot of different ways, but it activates the tapioca starch, and that's what gives it the stretchiness of it. So, I generally like to sit here and get a little arm workout, right, by doing this, but all of a sudden it just like quickly comes together. So I will show you guys this. And then it's really just assembling your lasagna. So I put a little bit of red sauce in whatever, pan I'm gonna use, spread it around. For the roll-ups, you would just lay out your al dente pasta noodle, and then you can assemble it. Put some white sauce, put your mushrooms, you could put some spinach. I will mix in spinach at the end of this. I like to just use frozen spinach because it's usually I buy like chopped frozen spinach from Trader Joe's, so it's already kind of smaller pieces. But you could do fresh greens if you want. It works with either, but just add in as much as you want. It kind of will cook and defrost and cook from frozen with it being warm. And then I just assemble it, but you could do any, lasagna, roll-ups. It could be just regular pasta. If you ran out, you can use a whole grain. It doesn't have to be pasta per se. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, and chopped kale. Yeah, they have a chopped kale from Whole Foods. That's great. I find like if you're serving this to guests, spinach is pretty mild green to use. You could also use baby kale. Baby kale is very similar to spinach in the taste. That doesn't really taste. Sometimes kale has a very strong taste. But again, it kind of depends on the audience of who you're making this for. So yeah, but keep that tip. You could blend it in and make a green cheesy pool. You can make all the different things for St. Patrick's Day coming up in the future. All right, everyone's still doing all right. Okay, so like I said, I will show you how stringy this gets. I will take pictures of everything as it cooks since we won't be in this session. What type of noodles do I typically use? I like the chickpea noodles that come. I find these at like Co-op and at Whole Foods. I've also done it with green lentils. I like to use a bean pasta just because I find that it has more fiber. It generally makes me fuller longer. So, but you could use, whole wheat has lasagna noodles as well. Yeah, just cook them al dente. No problem. I will send this out tonight. How many noodles is the whole box? This is an 8-ounce box. I could open it up and count for you guys. And you could double this recipe really easily if you're making it for like a lot of people. Count. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Around 10 is in this box. But yeah, if you were like, if I was taking this to like Thanksgiving with like a ton of people, I probably would double this recipe. And I can start to feel like at the bottom of your pan, you can start to feel like it starts to get a little bit more sticky, or you know, there's a little bit of resistance, so that I know it's starting to come together. Yeah, I can explain. So you'll cook the pasta noodles until they're, you know, al dente. So you want to cook them till they're like become a noodle, not this hardness. And then you'll put it down and you'll add your whatever you want to fill it with. And then since your noodle is cooked, you can roll it. It's going to be hard for me to show you with the noodle right now, but you will be able to roll it up and then you stick it into your casserole dish, and then you just cook it a little bit longer. Oh, you're welcome. Happy Thanksgiving. Just being. No problem, Marcia. Have a good Thanksgiving. But yeah, once you boil these in hot water, I mean, they become flexible, and then you can roll it. But you would just stuff it, you know, red sauce, part of this sauce, you put some mushrooms in it and roll it up. So you put the cheese sauce on it about halfway up. I just do a thin layer, and you can leave like a little bit at the ends, you know, with nothing, put a little bit of thin layer in the middle, and then when you roll it, you know, you're rolling it up with the pasta. Does that make sense? All right. Okay. And once this is done too, you can take it off the, you know, it's pretty easy. I usually cook the pasta noodles last. I make this first, I make the red sauce, so it's more of just assemblage. And then, you know, everything, what's nice too is that if you do this first and take it off, it's not as hot, so it's easier to work with. So I just grab a spoon and just will take like a little spoon, and you know, you spread it out as best as you can. It's gonna be thick, but you know, once it's cooled, it becomes a little bit easier. So I'm starting to feel a little bit, it's not as stretchy yet, so I gotta keep going, but you definitely can see that it's starting to thicken up. So a couple more minutes. All right, any other questions? We're going a little bit over, but that's okay. Like I said, I will take pictures of all of this when I finish it tonight for dinner. But at least you guys got the method behind making it. All right, so it's starting to feel a little bit of a pool. And you can tell, you know, once you make this once or twice, you'll be able to tell like when it's time to shut it off. Not quite there yet, but it's starting to get thick. All right, any other questions? Any questions about anything? Yeah, I wish I could have you guys over so you guys could taste it. Wish this could be like a live class. This is probably going to be these two recipes we'll have for dinner, probably like leading up to Thanksgiving, which is kind of nice because then I don't have to worry about cooking. And then, like I said, I'll make us as kind of a Thanksgiving meal. But part of it's going to be for traveling. So if anyone's traveling, you know, make extra so you have leftovers. So to make the lasagna after into the store, yeah. And lasagna noodles are great. Like I have a whole bunch I just keep in the pantry because this recipe, most times I have everything, you know, minus the noodles, but I keep some on stock. So this is a really nice one, and it's like very impressive too. Arrowroot does not make it stretchy. It will work, but it won't be, it's better with tapioca. It makes it thick, but not stretchy per se. I have much better luck with tapioca. So some people are always like, why doesn't it get stretchy? And it's just either your heat's not on long enough or you haven't cooked it long enough. So towards the end, you can bump up the heat a little bit, and you can even stop for a second and just watch it like simmer. And then it quickly kind of comes together. But usually it's because you didn't cook it long enough. Thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving. So you can see it kind of simmer. I'll show you guys whenever it's completely done, but only takes a couple minutes. And you guys, I will send out this recording tonight, so no worries. Also, it can thicken up a little bit too if you pull it from the heat and let it sit for a little bit. So if you make this ahead of time and you want it to be super stretchy, you can do this until it's thick, but then also it'll let it sit for a little bit and it'll get thicker too. Okay, any questions? All right. All right, this sauce looks like it's good. Take it off the heat. So it doesn't burn. You have a beautiful, like, just a beautiful white sauce. Even if you want to use it for something else, that it's ready. You could, I don't know, it's gonna be hard to show you guys with but you'll start to see that it gets like a little bit of a crust even to the top. A little bit hard to see with how hot it is, but I can start to see like it's thickening up where you can see it almost like dimpling. And that's kind of what we're looking for. It's going to be hard to show you on the webcam, but like it kind of almost looks like you can tell that it's becoming like almost like a layer on top, and that's perfect. Like a thick, I'm not describing this right, but a thick, like not skin, but like a little like thicker layer on top that it's kind of wrinkling. Okay. All right. Well, you guys, if you have any questions about the membership recipes, if you're making it and you want to, you know, you have an idea to make something a little bit different, just send me an email. I'm happy to kind of brainstorm with you even. And December 5th, we're going to have pierogies. There's going to be a lot of great recipes that come up in there. If you have been a member and you ever forget to download the recipes, they are saved in your email. Sometimes they go to spam. I know when I sent out the coupon code, like it went to everyone's spam folder for some reason. So just do a little search in your email, the Drudy Family Membership, and it should come up. But these are both great recipes to take to Thanksgiving or Christmas, or just to have around the house, especially, you know, I love cooking that's like easy and simple. So it's great to have this and even serve it with even your leftover sides from Thanksgiving. You know, and it makes a pretty good amount, so it should last you a while and feed like the entire family. So I hope you guys will try these. If you run into any issues, let me know. I will take pictures of the finished products and email them out tonight with the recording, but you guys will get it later tonight. Does anyone have any questions before I stop the recording? You can ask anything. Okay, go ahead. Donna has a question. You're welcome. Yeah, go ahead, and if you have a question, feel free to ask.
Brittany, I did want to ask about cookware because I'm making a wish list for Christmas. My mom was going to buy me something.
Okay.
And I'm just having a hard time. Like I've asked in groups before, but I'm a bit overwhelmed. And
Yes.
She had green pan and she hated it.
Okay. Yeah, green pan, I believe, is ceramic, which the only problem with ceramic is if you scratch it, that's where it can not be as healthy per se. I love, like, you know, there are some like the Dutch oven with ceramic plated. You know, I find that I hear a lot of people talk about the Scamp pan, but I've never used that one. I like stainless steel, or, you know, there are a couple, I've heard of green pan being okay though, that it's hold up. And some people are talking about the Scamp pan. But yeah, I've generally have a lot of stainless steel, a couple things that are ceramic coated. But I too have to invest probably in some better cookware once we move.
Okay. Yeah, people are saying good things about Scan Pan. Okay, I'll look into that.
Yeah, that's probably the one I've seen the most come up in groups.
Okay.
Okay, I'm reading. My Breville has been overtaking my loaves. The only problem with cooking some things in the Breville is that it's very high to your oven. So sometimes when you, and I use the Breville too a lot, but sometimes stuff can get cooked a little too fast or overcooked, which probably is what is happening to yours. The Breville is great, but you know, especially when you're making some stuff that gets too high to the temp, it just ends up kind of cooking too much. So I would try using a regular oven, and usually on the lowest rack. Yeah, that's just it's a small area to cook. So sometimes stuff gets cooked a little too quick. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. Well, does anyone have any other questions? Trying to see. I don't know what happened to my. All of a sudden, my Zoom got really tiny. There it is. Okay. All right. So I will stop the recording.